Hello and welcome to Leading Up. I'm Dr. Michelle Rozen, and we are here to talk about how to beat mind biases. And I know that when we say bias, we think about diversity and inclusion, but I'm also talking about mind biases that impact your relationships with so many other people and with your team. This is important. I'm glad you're here. This is Leading Up. One of the problems that you have with your mind is that your mind just makes up stuff. That means that when you don't know why things are the way they are, your mind really craves certainty. So let's say you have a client and the client didn't call you back. You may come up with all kinds of stories about why the client didn't call you back. Meanwhile, something else may be going on. You may have a team member who is really struggling to give you good work, and you may make up a whole story in your head about why they do what they do, but in reality, something completely different is happening. The mind just makes up stuff, and your mind just makes up stuff in order to compensate for not knowing, because not knowing is stressful to your brain. Sometimes it comes to the point of making up rumors. So people make up stories in their mind about other people, buy into those stories, and completely live that story. Here's the scary part. Based on the story that we just made up about the other person or the client or the team member or the whoever that we just made up about them, we actually make some real life decisions, and that's the scary part. So we can have a conversation about that person with someone else. We may try to get back at them for what they apparently have no clue about. We just made up the whole thing in our mind. Now, I still catch myself multiple times a day, even though I researched this, I wrote about this, multiple times a day, making up stories about other people and why they do what they do. The only thing I could do was reduce the frequency, reduce the impact, by asking myself this very simple question: how do I know? And when you ask that, you say to yourself, I don't really know. And so let's stop making up stories about other people and why they do what they do and act on it in real life. When you make up things about other people in your team, it feeds into your relationship with them. So the most important thing you need to do is ask yourself this very simple question. You ask yourself, how do I know? And the next time that there is a rumor about someone, a cooler talk about someone, all kinds of information that you get about someone, don't be quick to jump to conclusions about another person. The most important thing is to question your own bias first and ask yourself, how do I know that all of these things are true? And before you ask yourself, how do I know that all the things that other people are saying are true, you also ask yourself, how do I know that what I'm thinking is really what is going on? This is very important for engagement. This is very important for motivation. This is very important for productivity and for retention. Because when the mind makes up stories about other people and we buy into these stories, a whole thing that just gets out of control, it may get someone fired. It may get someone in a very unhealthy relationship with you. So yes, you do need to give other people the benefit of the doubt. But before anything else, you need to strengthen your relationship with that person to the point that you feel comfortable enough to ask them what is going on. The other aspect of mind biases that is very important for you to know, because it has impact on your relationship, is that you have a tendency to lean towards the people that agree with you. I'm sure that there's a whole bunch of people out there who actually disagree with me. And the tendency is to not listen to those people, because who wants to deal with that? You know, it's so fun when other people agree with you. It's so validating, and also it makes you feel that you're right, which is a wonderful, pleasurable feeling. But the truth of the matter is that the change lies with the people that disagree with you. Think about it this way. When someone agrees with you, it's very pleasurable to you, but you don't really know what they're thinking. You don't really know what they're saying behind your back. But when someone has the guts to disagree with you, they're really taking a risk. They have a lot to lose. And so let's respect those people who have the guts to disagree with us because they have so much to lose. we must be important enough to them for them to have the guts to say what's on their mind. Now, you don't have to agree with that person. They could be completely wrong. But you know what? If there is 10% in what they're saying that is important for you to know, it's important that you don't block out the people that disagree with you and give them the time and the place to say what's on their mind, even if it's super triggering for you and you really feel like you don't want to listen. You have to make the time. You have to have the length of breath to listen and see what part of it you want to take in.
So if I have a problem with Ruth in my team, and let's say that all of you guys from here to the wall, all of you guys, agree with me, okay? Work with me here. Ruth, horrible. Michelle, victim. Absolutely, you don't know how I even deal with her. That's you guys, okay. And all of you guys from here to the wall disagree with me. You think that Ruth is actually very nice, and I can be a character sometimes, okay. So here's what I'm gonna do, because I don't wanna deal with all of that. I'm so busy. I'm gonna have to change my ways and go above the 20%, forget that. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna block you guys out. I will just not even pay attention to you, and I'm gonna focus on you guys, because you agree with me and it's so fun and I feel so validated. I'm also super stuck. I'm not solving my problem with Ruth. I should be focusing on you guys. Because first of all, I don't know if you actually agree with me. Maybe you just want to please me. Maybe behind my back you're saying, oh yeah, Michelle, here she goes again. You know, that's a honey trap. I'm not falling into the honey trap of the people that agree with me. I should be focusing on you guys. I don't have to agree with you, but you will challenge me to look at the situation and make different choices. You guys are my opportunity for change.
Okay, we're back with Dear Dr. Michelle. I got some great questions here. I'm going to share 3. So here's the first question. Hi, Dr. Michelle. I know that this is more life than leadership. That's totally okay. But I have a feeling you'll be okay with that. See, you were right. I keep having misunderstandings with my daughter. She's 20 years old, and we fight way too often just to find out later that it was another misunderstanding. How do I prevent all those misunderstandings? This is such a great question, because you're right. This happens in leadership and in life. And a lot of the conflict that we have with other people is a result of misunderstandings. So think about it this way. Someone tries to communicate something and they're choosing words that are not clear to the other person, or they're just not explaining themselves right, or they're not explaining anything at all. We just talked about how much the brain assumes. And so whatever we don't fully understand from the other person, or whatever doesn't sit right with us, your brain just adds a whole other layer of interpretation and information and reading into it that was actually not really there. Misunderstandings happen because of your brain's tendency to make up stuff about the other person. And it's very hard to come back because misunderstandings escalate very quickly. If you want to clear things with your daughter, and if you want to clear things with a team member or a community member, whoever it is in your life, you have to make the time to have a conversation that is a sit-down conversation. That means that a lot of the misunderstandings happen when people stand and they're very impulsive and they yell. And when people yell, there will definitely be misunderstandings because everything will be very heated. You can schedule a time. You can say, listen, I can't talk about it now. Let's talk about it at 4 or at 5 or tomorrow at 3. And then have a sit-down conversation when your mind is in a better place, a place where you can listen and have less misunderstandings. Here's another great question. Dear Dr. Michelle, we have a few team members that constantly engage in cooler talk and spread rumors. This is causing a lot of anxiety to a lot of other people. How do I put an end to it? So, well, you can't put an end to cooler talk, right? Because people like to talk and interact, and that's absolutely okay. But what you can do is clarify things on your end. And the fact that there's so much anxiety over changes that are happening in your company, that is within your role. So controlling their cooler talk, that you can't do, but spreading good information negates misinformation and therefore defeats anxiety. That means that you need to make sure that you communicate to your team very clearly what is going on, what is happening, what is expected of them, and the parts in the change that you don't know, simply say, you know what, I don't have that information at this point, but as soon as I find out, I'll share it with you. So be honest, be authentic, be vulnerable, and make sure to communicate more so that additional communication, that additional information negates some of the cooler talk. We have another great question. Hi, Dr. Michelle. I'm in HR. I have 2 team members who don't get along. She claims that he is incompetent, and he claims that she's impossible to work with. They don't work well together, and there's a lot of conflict. What is the best way for me to handle it? So yes, I know that in HR, a lot of times those conflicts end up your job to resolve. And what you need to do is you need to talk to each of them one-on-one. There is a problem here where both of these people are actually exceeding their limitations in terms of their role. So for one team member to deem another team member as incompetent is really beyond the scope of their job and responsibility, right? Because that competence was determined by someone else. And for someone to say that someone else is impossible to work with is not a part of a team culture. This is your opportunity in HR, not just to listen to them and see what you can iron out, but also to clarify to both of them what the boundaries are. And sometimes that would be the most effective approach here, because I feel like both of them stretch the limits. We are here in Leading Up talking about how important it is to prevent misunderstandings and to control our own mind biases in order to do that. Become the type of leader who is very aware of their own mind biases and who is at constant work with themselves to overcome mind biases, connect with other people, communicate with other people so that you can have the best team culture that you can create. We can do this. You can do this. This is Leading Up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell to keep up with all the new videos. Also, click on the link to watch another video.